Good morning, everybody. Today we're going to be wrapping up our geology segment. Next week we are going to be starting the atmosphere and weather. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about the geology of Massachusetts and about the topography of Haverhill. So, the geology of Massachusetts. This is factors that made our state be the way that it is. So, once upon a time, the entire state was covered with glaciers. This was about 25 million years ago. I'm sorry, 25,000 years ago. During the last ice age. A sheet of ice that stretched from way up in northern Canada all the way down past New England. It was called the Laurentide Ice Sheet. And it basically carved up New England and Massachusetts in particular. In fact, the island of Nantucket is actually a moraine left over from the glacier. Some other features that the state has. Other features left behind by the Laurentide Glacier are kettle ponds, a kettle pond occurs as the glacier is retreating. It breaks off of a piece of ice that it leaves behind. That ice melts, and as it melts, it fills the little depression in the ground with water. So a kettle pond, can't spell this morning. When a retreating glacier leaves behind a chunk of ice. As that ice melts, it fills in, it creates a lake. So, behind chunk of ice, a lake forms as the ice melts. A little side view might be looking like this. The lakes are anywhere from 6 feet deep to 60 feet deep. Like just the opposite of our little rounded lake, the state of Massachusetts is covered with drumlins. Drumlins are small, rounded, egg-shaped hills. And these hills may have developed as the glaciers are melting. So they developed from glacial runoff. Or erosion from other nearby landforms. And a drumlin is going to be kind of like a very steep, rounded hill. Another feature left behind by glaciers are called eskers. Whoa! Eskers, E-S-K-E-R. An esker is a long and winding ridge. And it's believed that they are created as streams carve out an ice tunnel as the glacier is melting. And what you are seeing left behind is the shape. Imagine, how am I going to explain this? So they're created as water is melting underneath the glacier. It carves out a tunnel, and then because there is not ice above the ground where the tunnel has been carved out, the ground kind of rises up a little bit. So let me see if I can put that into words for you. So as the glacier melts, tunnels are carved in the ice. And so what happens is you have a long winding ridge that goes like this, and it shows the path of the stream and the shape of the tunnel. The longest esker in the United States is actually here in Massachusetts. It is located in the Great Esker Park. Which is in Weymouth. And the last feature we talked about yesterday were moraines, which is the debris pushed ahead of a moving glacier. And I said the island of Nantucket would be an example of a moraine. And the shape of Nantucket is kind of like this. And you can see it's curved, so that meant that a long time ago, 25,000 years as a matter of fact, when the ice came all the way down to New England, this was the leading edge of a glacier, and here was the pile that it was pushing in front of it. Those are some glacial features in Massachusetts. And right now I want to talk to you about topography in Haverhill. Topography is a new word. Basically, it's a way to show the shape and the features of a landscape. And I'm going to show you a topographical map of Haverhill. So, a topographical map will show you the elevation. That's the height above sea level. And the steepness of a hillside. It does this by using contour lines. When you look at a topographical map that we're going to look at in a minute, the closer together the lines are, the more steep. And the more lines you have, the higher the elevation. In Haverhill, you may hopefully have realized some of the features that Haverhill has. We have a number of kettle ponds, basically all of our ponds, Lake Pentucket, Plug Pond, Crystal Lake, Lake Canosa, to name a few. Whoa, sorry guys, Canosa. That was spectacular. Kenoza. Ooh. Kenoza. These are just to name a few of the kettle lakes in Haverhill. Lake Pentucket, you might also know, is Round Pond. Haverhill is known for its many hills. So one could say that Haverhill is filled with drumlins. Basically all of our hills. In the city are drumlins. Some of our more notable hills are Ayers Hill is 337 feet in elevation. Gale is 307. Scotland is 287. Job Hill, 267 feet. Golden is also 267 feet. Silver Hill is only, oh, I'm sorry. Golden Hill is 257 feet. Golden Hill is 267 feet. And Kimball Hill is only it's one of our smaller hills, is 198 feet. Now, this is only a small sampling of all of the hills that are in Haverhill. I'm going to show you guys a topographical map. So I'm actually going to include for you guys several pieces of this map. It's pretty big. I can't make it big enough really for you guys to see a lot of the features. So what I had to do was cut it up a bit. And we are going to look at just a couple of features on the map right now. So here's Ayers Hill in the back. It's up by Northern Essex, 495. It's up by Whittier Road. Colliers Hill is up here. Here's Kimball Hill that I mentioned, 198 feet above sea level. And let's take a look at Ayers Hill in particular, because it's nice and big. All right. So, well, who knew that was going to happen? All right, I'm going to make my pen a little bit smaller so that I can make marks on this. Let's see how we go. So here's Ayers Hill. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. Here are the contour lines. D-O-U-R. Here are the contour lines. That's what all of these brown lines are. And you can see here, the lines are very close together. So that indicates steepness of the hill. These numbers here are elevation. And I said that Ayers Hill is 337 feet. So here is the line for 300 feet. This is 310. This is probably 320. And then up here is, would be 330 feet. Or it's on this side over here. Here is Job Hill. Some of you guys get your Christmas trees and maybe go blueberry picking in the summertime, but you get that here. This is where Turkey Hill Farm is located, right here on Job Hill. I don't know why it keeps jumping out on me. So we're not going to stress about it. As I said, I had to put several maps together, so that's why my pieces are moving around. And it's going to be a little bit of a pain in the neck to zip around to show you guys stuff. Let me move that away. If you want to take a look at the city proper, where most of us live, you can see Silver Hill is here with Observatory Ave. This is where our big radio and cell tower is, on the top of Silver Hill. You can see one side of the hill is very steep, and on the other side it increases gradually. I can tell that because my lines are far apart on one side and they're very steep on the next side, or on the far side rather. If you take a look at where the little river is, right here, here's where it goes underground and then it empties out into the Merrimack River. You can see that the little river has created a valley because on either side of the little river, there is increasing number of your contour lines, and they get higher as you go up. Over here in Ward Hill, as I zoom back in, this area right over here is where our school is. So we are right here. We're right here. And some of you guys have been out in the back in the land behind the school. That's this. And right by the highway, there are a couple of spots that we wouldn't let you go that close to because it is very steep and the land drops off very quickly right before the river. And that's one of those spots. Here's Ward Hill. Has great steepness on one side, slightly more gradual on the other side. And over on this part of Bradford, I could not get the part of Bradford where Bradford Ski Tow is, but it was not on the map. So sorry for those of you guys who like to go skiing. And in the center, here is Lake Saltonstall. So let me get that away. Or in other words, Plug Pond is Lake Saltonstall. And where did my Canosa Lake go? I'm going to bring these two maps back together. So please bear with me for one hot second, because I would like you to see the closeness. I grew up right near Lake Pentucket, and I was always amazed that Lake Pentucket So Round Pond, Plugs Pond, and Canosa Lake were all so close together. Well, it turns out that shortly after those glaciers retreated, that this whole area was actually, oops, where's lake? There we go. Was actually one giant lake. And as the glaciers retreated and things warmed up, the lake water receded and the drumlins were revealed, which are all these little hills. So all these hills over here, these hills going up here. So I always found that pretty interesting that Round Pond, Plug Pond, and Canosa Lake were all part of one giant lake at one point. In fact, when I was talking about eskers earlier, here's Canosa Lake. Right here is the basin. And this little bump out that helps create the basin is actually part of an esker. It's not very long. Usually they can be quite a bit longer, but it is one of the features that is left over from the glacial period. So here's what I would like you guys all to do. I am going to post a picture of each part of these maps so you can see there's 4 of them. You do not need to have all 4 of them in your notebooks, but if you have the ability to print them out, you should print out the one that is closest to your own neighborhood, and maybe mark what are the drumlins, what are the kettle lakes, and make sure you understand about the features of reading the topography of the map, which is how high are these hills and how steep they are. And maybe the next time you have the opportunity to be zipping around town, you'll look at those drumlins and other features with maybe a different set of eyes that now understand our local geology.